And this comes from the Old Testament lesson that we heard a little while ago from the book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 55. Here are the words of God. Come, all of you who are thirsty, come to the waters. You who have no money, come, buy and eat. Come, buy wine and milk without money and without cost. These are the words that the prophet is relating to the people. And where were the people at this time? The people to whom this prophet is addressing these words were in captivity. They were not free. They were in Babylon. These people who had earlier on rebelled against God, disobeyed God, did not follow God's instruction, and as a matter of fact, actively rebelled against God time and time again, in spite of being warned by the prophets that God sent them. They were taken as captives. The Babylonian army came and destroyed Jerusalem, destroyed the temple, broke down the wall, and rendered it into ruins, and carried every one of them into captivity to Babylon. They were there for 70 years. 70 years they were in captivity. How can we sing, they cried out, as we have in one of the Psalms. How can we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? They were not happy, obviously. They were very, very disconcerted, disturbed, because their land was taken away from them. This land that God had given by oath and covenant to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the children of the tribes. This land that was a sign and assurance that God was the one who called them. Even to this day, the land of Israel is considered sacred because it is the land that was promised and given by God. From Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south. But this land was no longer theirs. It was occupied by a foreign enemy. In fact, they were not even living there. They had been taken to another country. Just imagine that. You are the chosen people of God. You had a certain identity about yourself. You had a certain absolute certainty that God was working in your life. And then all of a sudden it was gone. They were paying for their rebellion. They were paying for their disobedience. After almost 70 years of this kind of a life in captivity, they were crying out to God again. They were seeking God. And God was seeking them as well. This is the beauty of the relationship God has with us. No matter how far we may go, no matter how often we may rebel, no matter how badly we may behave, our God is one who is constantly seeking us, constantly coming after us, constantly reminding us that He has not forgotten us. He is a covenant-making God and He is a covenant-keeping God. So He says in this chapter, kind of an invitation God extends to His people. Come, you who are thirsty, You remember the time when the people of God were journeying from another land of captivity where they had served 400 years. This was a long time back. And they left the land of Egypt and they crossed the Red Sea and they were in the wilderness. They hadn't quite made it to the promised land yet. And they were thirsty. And they cried out. They wanted water. And Moses cried to God, and God said, strike the rock and we will have water. And they were provided with water in the desert. Come, you who are thirsty, come to the waters. Isn't that what Jesus also says? In John chapter 7, he very clearly says, come where? Come unto me and drink from me. For out of you will flow rivers of refreshing waters when you come to Christ. I am the bread of life, he said. When you come to me, I will sustain you. I will take care of you. I will provide for you. Even as God provided manna in the wilderness. Manna that came from above. Who is your sustenance? Who is providing you with drink? Where are you buying your water? Poland Spring? Word of God invites you to come to the very fountain of living water. What did Jesus say to the woman at the well, who was there to draw water every day? Jesus says, give me a drink, and of course she is initially shocked because he's a Jew and she's a Samaritan woman. And yet she offers, when she said, how can you draw water from the well? You don't even have a means to draw the water and use it. You don't know the water I'm talking about. It's not physical water. It's not physical thirst. Each of us and every human being has a deep thirst, a deep hunger for God. Whether you believe it or not, whether you agree with it or not, whether you are happy about it or not, there is a deep hungering and thirsting that is going on in our culture. The only problem is that the culture offers all kinds of water, all kinds of sustenance, but it doesn't last for long. It may quench the thirst for the moment. It may take care of the need for a transient moment, but there is no deep quenching of the thirst that our culture has. The nice thing about this invitation that God extends to the people is, come and buy not only water, but go the extra mile, buy wine and milk without money, without cost. How many of you have ever received something for nothing? Okay, here we go. The other day I saw an advertisement. The advertisement said, we will give you something free, just come and stop by. So I said, okay, let me check it out. So I went to this bank and I sat across the desk from this woman who is from Punjab. It's very interesting who you meet. I mean, I walked into the bank, I didn't know who I was going to see, but she was seated, she said, please come, and I said, nice to meet you, and introduced myself, and we got into talking a little bit, and I said, you're from India? She said, yeah, I'm from Punjab. So I greeted her, and I got into a little conversation, and as she was doing the paperwork, she was opening this account, and I didn't say anything about the free product that they were going to offer. I didn't say anything about that. I just said, I'm here to open an account, and she was very, very nice, very helpful, filled all the paperwork and everything. When I told her that I was a pastor of a church, she said, I've never been to a church ever in my life, and I would love to come by to your church. So I said, here's the card. Come anytime, you're welcome. Then we went on to do all the paperwork, and everything was done. And she said, oh, by the way, you get a free camera for opening this account in our bank. I said, I pretended not to show that. I knew. I said, really, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I said, how much does it cost? She said, no, it's free. The bank is just having a promotion, so they just want to give you something for coming in today. I said, wow, that's really nice. And she said, almost as if I didn't hear, she said, just make sure that your balance will never go below $250. Really? I thought this was a free thing. I thought it didn't cost anything. There is no such thing as a free thing in this world. How many of you have been to events where you're invited to come and have a tour with us, spend 2 hours with us, and then you'll be given the free world, right? I mean, once I believed it, and I drove to the Jersey Shore, and I even took my wife, because they said you can't come alone, you have to bring your wife. So I took Sarita and we drove 3 or 4 hours to this nice hotel by the Jersey Shore, and we were greeted and welcomed, and we were asked to sit in a room like this with a whole bunch of people, and somebody presented this program that seemed like it was the most wonderful thing, because you get 2 weeks of free vacation anywhere in the world. You can go to Brazil, you can go to Argentina, you can go to London, Paris, and she said, you can go to India. I said, really? We go to India all the time. Where can I go and stay for free in India for 2 weeks? 5-star hotel right by the Secretariat in Hyderabad. I was sold right there. I said, where do I sign? Well, they didn't tell me at that time. They never tell you all the details. They just tell you, this is what was free was a lunch. That's the only thing that was free. But even that is really not free, because we had the free lunch and then we signed the papers. It cost us $4,000 just to be able to say we have timeshare. I didn't know it was called timeshare. I knew it. I learned it for the first time. This was some 15 or 20 years ago. To make the story short, we never, ever went on a free 2-week vacation with that company. It just didn't happen. And after a year, they sent us a bill saying, since you are a member of this club and we want to keep you in this club, we want to make sure you get more benefits and blah, 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 and then you have $300 a yearly fees for this. I said, oh my goodness. So here we go, $300. Another year went by and I got my second notice. I didn't do anything. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't have even a day of vacation with them. But they said, you have to pay another $300 because we want to continue to offer you the benefits of our company and blah, blah, blah. When the third offer came, I said, please, I don't like any of your free stuff. Because it's really not free. It's costing me hundreds of dollars on top of the $4,000 that I already lost. So I said, would you please release me from this bondage? They said, no, we can't do that. You are under contractual obligation to be with us for 10 years. I said, when did I sign that? They said, when you came for the free lunch. I almost had to threaten them with a lawsuit, and finally got out of it after 3 years of not going on 1 day of vacation. Nothing is free. Everything has a catch. And I think this is what happens when God says, My love is free. My forgiveness is free. I will pay your debt. And we say, really? I don't think so. Because we've been burned. The culture today, the society in which we live today has been so burned by everything that happens around them, they no longer have faith, even in God. They want to stay away from God. But the prophet is relentless. I mean, this prophet comes back again in verse 6. He says, seek the Lord while he may be found. Seek the Lord while he may be found. You know what Paul says about salvation? What is the day of salvation? Tomorrow? When is the day of salvation? Now is the day of salvation. Now is the time for you to accept what God is offering you. Now is the day of salvation. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call on him while he is near. And let the wicked turn to the Lord, for he will have mercy on him. And turn to our God, for he will freely pardon. I meet so many people in the course of my ministry, people who I meet both in church and outside. When I talk to them about the love of God, how God offers you this gift of your sins being forgiven, they have a hard time. They really do. They have a hard time trusting that there is such a thing as a free gift of forgiveness of my sins. Many people out there want to know how they can pay for their sins, how they can balance it, balance the books with God by doing something. And so many people think that becoming a church member is one of them. So many people think that by giving an offering, they're offsetting the balance of sin in God's book. So many of them think by serving on a mission trip, they're doing a favor to God so that God can say how good so-and-so is, and then maybe forgive based on that. What does Paul say? All our righteous deeds are like filthy rags. And the culture doesn't want to accept that. They want to think that their good behavior or their good deed has certain value when it comes to God. What was that song in The Sound of Music? I must have done something good. Nothing comes from nothing. Nothing ever does. So I must have done something good. You know, we who come from India, we all talk about reincarnation, right? I must have done something good in my previous existence, my previous appearance. So God has given me a better life this time around. And maybe if I do better now, I can even get better the next time. So how many times are you going to come in order to attain forgiveness? I asked this question once to my English professor at Nizam College, who told me this. We have to reincarnate hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of times before God has mercy on us. This is a learned PhD teaching at a prestigious college. And I said to him, you don't have to do that. God offers it right now, just for the taking. The world doesn't accept that. The world doesn't believe that. I hope that you and I, who have accepted this, believe it in our hearts. Really, really believe it with our heart that God has done this before you even asked for it, before you even were conscious of the fact that you were a sinner, God has already taken the step to forgive you. God has already sent His Son. Before you were even aware that you were a sinner. Such is the love that God has. We are doing our Lenten study on being lost. These past couple of weeks we've been talking a lot about being lost and being found. The three parables that Jesus tells in the Gospel of Luke chapter 15. The parable of the lost coin. Small coin. The coin didn't choose to be lost. It was simply lost. And that is the condition of a lot of people. They don't choose to be lost. They don't choose to be away from God. That is where they are. That is where the coin is. It is already in a lost condition. But the story is all about the woman who sweeps the floor, who lights a lamp, who diligently searches until she finds the coin, and that is who God is. He found you when you were lost. He came after you. Like the shepherd in the second story who goes after the lost sheep, searching until he finds it and then picks it up and puts it on his shoulders and walks it back home. That is how God treats us. That is how God's love is made manifest. The sheep didn't find the way back home. The shepherd did. Two of the stories that Jesus tells. And then finally the story of the lost son. When the son does come back, realizes it's far better in my father's house than where I am right now. So he comes home. What does the father do? He embraces him. He kisses him. He gives him a new robe. Puts a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. In other words, basically the father is reinstating him to the status that he lost when he left home. When he left home, the son turned his face away from the father. And that is also the condition of the world. We have all chosen to go our own ways, as Paul tells us in Romans. All of us have chosen to disobey. But God, in His great mercy, has offered us a way back home. A way back home. I don't know where you are in your journey. I have no idea. But wherever it is that you find yourself, know this for sure, that there is an invitation that is open to you. There is an open invitation for you right now. It's not like those evites that you get in the mail that says closing date, March 10th, finished. If you don't respond by March 10th, khatam. I get these, again, free lunches, right? Free lunches. Retirement seminars. I get a lot of them since I've crossed 60 a couple of years ago. I'm getting all these, come to Maggiano's. How can you miss a lunch in Maggiano's? Or how about the Ride and Inn? The greatest place to have a lunch or a dinner. Come, have a free lunch or a free dinner. But respond by, the deadline, and I miss all the deadlines, by the way. I can't seem to be able to make that offer, and I kind of think I want to go, and then by the time I decide to go, it's already finished. God's Evite has no deadline. God's Evite has no deadline. Every day that you live is the day of salvation. So don't waste time on that, and if for some reason you are away from the fold, whatever may have happened, and it's between you and God, God says, my child, I have loved you before, I will love you now, and I will love you forever. Without condition. The son didn't have any chance to say anything when he came home because the father simply grabbed him, embraced him, welcome Him. God is waiting for you. I don't know where you are, but God is waiting for you to come and become part of His life and His purpose. May the Lord add His blessing to His holy word. Amen.